What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Badly content. Today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at a team that I've been running since the last Great League rotation, right at the end, so it wasn't really time enough for me to make a video on it then, but it's been performing well. Almost got me up to Legend, where it's sitting at 28, 60, 70 elo by the end of this video with this team, and I just wanted to share it because it's a really good team. We are going to be leading off with a Wiggytuff, and you know, immediately, everybody who knows me is going to be like, oh my god, he's running Wiggytuff. This man has lost his mind. And you know what? You're right. I have. Wiggytuff, though, works with this team because we are going to be running a double ghost comp, and I'll explain about that in a minute. Just want to say, though, real quick, thank you to the person who created the team, my buddy Greg. He hit Legend with this team just today as of recording, which is, you'll be seeing this tomorrow. So, hit Legend with it yesterday as you're watching it. So, I can tell you that the team comp is solid. We are going to be using a Shadow Drifblim on the safe swap as our first ghost. You do not need a Shadow. He believed that he did not use a Shadow. I like the damage output of the Shadow. It's my personal preference, but you do not need the Shadow. However, I will try to see if I can find some situations where you can see the differences between the two. And the third Pokemon, my newly built Galarian Corsola. The IVs on this thing are not peak, amazing, high rank, but it's good enough, and I'm going to be realistic. I know I'm not getting a better one anytime soon, so I went ahead and built this one. It's good enough for me, and I would say that if you have a similar rank, you could probably build it too. Let's get into these games here and take a look at this team. Wiggytuff double ghost in the Great League. We get an Alolan Ninetails in the first game, something I haven't seen in a while, but these were done on Go Battle Day. So these were done after the release of Corviknight, which might have been your first question is, well, why are you playing Wiggytuff in a Corviknight meta? Because it's actually not that bad. So what I like to do here is, especially when you have something in the back that the lead is kind of awkward against, like for example, this Powder Snow Alolan Ninetails, I'm going to stay in with Wiggytuff for a bit. Had the Alolan Ninetails been Charm, I would have been more likely to switch out to Drifblim. And I shield up the first move because I do believe they were enough for a Dazzling Gleam. Now, my opponent has a Whiscash here, and winning lead was really nice because now we're going to be able to lock our Drifblim onto this thing, and we're going to be able to, hopefully, against whatever's in the back, just let Corsola do its thing. This Corsola, by the way, I didn't believe it at first, but this thing is stupid bulky, and the really fun thing about this team is that you have Astonish and Charm. You have fast move pressure all over this team, and that makes it really, really potent. Now, I shield this move here because I have the opportunity to apply Icy Winds to whatever comes in. My opponent comes in with a Cresselia. Now, I was expecting them to have maybe a Gastrodon or something in the back, because most people, when they have an Alolan Ninetails lead, will put like Double Water or something in the back, right? So we take that first game, well played to the opponent. Because Cresselia ain't messing with no ghost. That's not the Ghostbusters. You don't call the Ghostbusters for Cresselia. Cresselia just doesn't like ghosts. Actually, I guess maybe you should call the Ghostbusters then. Maybe I got my my memes crossed. My wife's laughing to me. She thinks I'm stupid. It's all right. Anyway, we're gonna go into the Wiggytuff is gonna go with a Swift here. We have a Gastrodon. Like, I don't. This is the thing, right? You could either switch right away into Drifblim, which might have been the proper play here. Or you could do what I did and try to feel out a switch into Drifblim to catch a move. I really hate the fact that Bastiodon is currently on my screen, and I'm just going to go for a Shadow Ball and get the damage. This is a really, really awkward situation for me. I'm glad the Shadow Ball landed. I know the opponent probably doesn't shield that, but I have to save my Corsola to deal with the rest of this team, and also hope that maybe the opponent doesn't have another Steel type in the back, because if I'm going to win this game, I think it has to be on the back of my Corsola. I'm just, at this point, this is the decision that I have locked in. I am just going to go for this now. My opponent comes in with a Gastrodon, and I put my Wiggly on it immediately because I want to absorb the energy from this Gastrodon. And they're going to go for the Earth Power. That's fine. This will now provide me an opportunity to hopefully farm down. They're not going to be able to throw a Body Slam because we get the perfect Forest Astonish farm down. And they come back in with a Bastiodon. We are locked in with double Nightshade. And if the opponent doesn't shield us, I think it might be enough. Nightshade is a newly buffed move. It is just enough to knock out. But the opponent's got Malamar in the back, so we're not out of the woods yet. I don't know exactly how much a Foul Play does to my Corsola, but I imagine from this HP range, it's going to come pretty close to knocking out. My opponent should be able to get to 2 Foul Plays before I can get to 3 Nightshades, so I'm expecting this to be a loss unless somehow the bulk of my Corsola just shines and I'm able to get this, to be able to get this move up. I basically have to no shield and hope I live, and if I don't, then I lose. And we don't, so we lose. Good game to the opponent. Malamar in the back was unfortunate. Next game against fellow content creator Home Slice Henry. I was super excited to see what he was cooking, and then he comes in with a Skitty. And I realize he's tanking. So, good game. hard countered. Nothing he could have done about this game. He's probably just tanking his elo to be able to get better Q times. I don't blame him. I do the same thing because I don't like dealing with Q times. So good game, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't even, I mean, it was good, but it was, I don't know. Anyway, Azumarill leads. What I like to do here is I like to stay in with Wiggly, and I like to eat the first move. Hopefully they cap tie me on the Swift, but if they don't, I'll usually stay in for a couple more bubbles because they will typically throw afterwards. The thing that's awkward about this lead is because almost every Azumarill you should assume is running Ice Beam, which makes Drifblim not a good swap because they can simply just go for the Ice Beam and then switch. Now, my opponent comes in with a Shadow Feraligatr here. ABA Water is a wild choice, but the really cool thing about Shadow Drifblim that the normal cannot do, at least I don't think it can, but it might be able to. You can all correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that against Feraligatr, the normal Drifblim can't farm down before the opponent gets to a third move. Drifblim here in the 2 shield scenario, the opponent has to give up a shield, obviously, and if they don't, then they just get farmed down anyway. But we're able to farm down and maintain switch. So if you ever have a situation where you absolutely have to have switch advantage, this is the way to go with Drifblim. If you draw out the Feraligatr, just Astonish down, throw one Icy Wind, and then we just get to launch a Shadow Ball into the Azumarill. The opponent is saving their shield for their Quagsire, and they're about to find out why that was probably not a good idea. Well, it's probably a good idea. I mean, considering they don't know what I have in the back, probably a good idea. Drifblim can probably come in here if I want to, but I'm just going to go ahead and try to get to this Icy Wind. The opponent not able to get to a move, and they are permanently debuffed and forced to shield this because otherwise they pretty much lose the game. Opponent is going to get debuffed. I'll come in with my Galarian Corsola after this. We get to a Nightshade, we win the game, or we just Astonish down. At this point, the debuff and just the bulk of the Corsola, like it just tanks that damage, like it just tickles a little Corsola. Good game. Getting into the next game, we got Wiggytuff against Golisopod. This is a pretty good lead because they're usually on Shadow Claw, and the same would go for like a Feraligatr lead, right? So the opponent's going to come in with Typhlosion. I react way too slow because I'm really not, like, I'm not really sure what to do in this situation, right? So my thinking here is I have Power Gem, which is Rock-type damage for the Golisopod. I will just shield unless I can throw a move on good timing. The opponent has the Incinerates. They can just go for one and then the move, and I'm going to only throw on 3 Astonishes, or I can now just go for this farm down, so which is exactly what I'm going to do. I should be able to pull at least 1 shield back off that Golisopod, and this much energy on Corsola is going to go somewhere, right? So we're going to go for this Power Gem. No, yeah, Power Gem. That's going to do a lot of damage, and because the opponent didn't shield that, we can now just go for the slightly less expensive Nightshade, which will also force them to throw energy pretty quickly here. And they have to throw the Liquidation or the Aerial Ace if they have it. And they're getting pretty close to being knocked out. Like, so Corsola by itself is essentially taking out 2 Pokemon. By itself. This thing is ridiculous. I'm going to come in with my Drifblim here. And the reason I want to explain this, I want to just pause it real quick. The reason I come in with my Drifblim is because I don't really know what's in the back. And if I can get to an Icy Wind or farm down the Golisopod, right? Just the energy from Drifblim is going to be more useful than me coming in with Charms and getting to a move a little bit later by swapping, right? So this is why I did this play. Now watch this. We win cap over the opponent's Quagsire. They had 1 turn switch. We did not. And we are able to get to the Icy Wind as they are going to get to the Stone Edge, which means now we live the Stone Edge, and we're able to go to the Wiggytuff in order to start getting some energy off. We can just go for the Swift here, and we're going to take this game. Well played to the opponent. That was a very close game. It didn't look like it, but it was close. And thanks to Home Slice Henry's tanking, we get a 4-1 in the first set. We're going to move on to the next set. I have 3 sets in this video because when I have a really good climbing team that I really believe in, I try to add a 3rd set. That doesn't mean that anything with 2 sets is any less so, but it's like when I can get 3 consecutive positive sets, I feel like that's going to be a little bit better of a confidence booster for anybody who watches this video and wants to try the team, because they can see, oh wow, this worked for 3 straight sets. This might actually be good. And this team is so strong, dude. We're going to be able to apply 2 Icy Winds to the Dunsparce that's counter swapped in. This is good that we bait out, like, that's the whole point of Drifblim, right? Like, it sucks to get hard countered by these normals, but that is exactly why we use the Drifblim, and it's able to apply the Icy Winds, and Wiggytuff can come in and go ahead and get a Charm down, Farm down, and we have energy all over the team to be able to deal with Jumpluff. So I'm hoping that at some point I can hit them with an Icy Wind, or I can do, you know, something of the sort, but it's really not looking all that amazing right now because we weren't able to get a whole lot of farm. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and stay in, try to get that Icy Wind off to get the shield. I'm going to have to shield the opponent here, unfortunately. because the Jumpluff's Energy Ball would knock out. We're going to get the shield back, and I'm hoping that Corsola in the one shield scenario against whatever they come in with is going to be more, it's going to be easier to deal with. And then, of course, it's a more Pekko. So that idea completely went down the drain immediately. But I know I can live the first move here, so I'm going to go ahead and let it go. Aura Wheel comes through, still hits like a truck, dude. Even though it's not boosted and not super effective, that is a huge amount of damage from something so small. And we do about as much damage to them with the neutral power gem, but the opponent at this point kind of knows that they just need to save the shield for their Jumpluff, and unfortunately, because they had 2 Ghost-type answers in the back, which is not always the case with Jumpluff leads, but is, fairly, I would say it's fairly common. You want to have 2 answers to something like Dewgong, which is why I think that this team makes sense. You have 2 really strong answers to most ice types that are currently in this meta. But the opponent just had everything that they needed to be able to take this game. Only thing that could have been possible here was if I were able to get to a move on Wiggly or land 2 power gems. I basically needed to land 2 moves, but I'm not going to be able to get there. Opponent is also on Aerial Ace. So that's going to do it for this game, though, unfortunately. That's going to take a loss. But still, team has been performing extremely well. I've gotten all the way, I went, from the pits, Elo, 2,400s or so after a bad rotation, and then went in Great League, and we just went up to, I almost hit Expert with this team last rotation, and then we're able to come up and almost hit Legend with it in this one. The only reason I'm not still running this team is because I have another team that I've been trying on stream with Corviknight, so if that does work, you guys can expect a video on that team soon as well. I mean, either way, I'm going to make a video on it because it's a really good team, but I want to be able to, is this just a climbing team, or is this the team that took me to Legend? You know what I mean? So, Dewgong leads. I'll stay in with Wiggytuff, and then let this Icy one take me out. I'll usually play the zeros, or I'll match shields if the opponent decides they want a shield, but I'll come in and get a full farm down here with Corsola, and the opponent now comes in with a Azumarill. I just kind of panic a little bit, throw this Nightshade just to get some chip damage in. Drifblim's going to have to come in here, but the problem that I have with my Drifblim is that it's already behind, and they can get to an Ice Beam much quicker than I can get to the Shadow Ball. So I'm basically going to have to shield up everything at this point, but at least I can say that the Corsola has enough bulk to say I don't necessarily need to shield this. Now I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball in case the opponent tries to call a bait. They have 2 shields. They're probably shielding this, but they don't, and they were either very comfortable with letting Azumarill go, or they were trying to call that move. Now I'm going to go ahead and shield up the Drifblim, and I'm going to hope that this opponent does not have anything else that they can do to deal with me. And of course, they have Shadow Feraligatr in the back, so my best bet here would have been to let Wiggytuff live and deal with his backline, but unfortunately not going to be the case. If I can get to 2 Nightshades here, I'm solid. Depends on how much this Hydro does. Again, I don't really have super good knowledge of my Corsola yet, but it really doesn't look good here at this point, unfortunately, because that would do just about half of the HP we have left. Plus the Shadow Claws, Corsola's going to go down, and I'm pretty sure that the opponent's going to overfarm here. But they don't. They actually throw right away, which is a small sliver of hope that I have that maybe I can get to a move, but my Drifblim's empty, so it's pretty much over here. We needed to farm down, and unfortunately, they're going to be able to get to that Hydro Cannon with just 5 Shadow Claws and take out our Drifblim. That's going to be a good game. Well played to the opponent. Really, one of the biggest issues for this team is Feraligatr in the back end. We found it. Next game, we got a Dunsparce lead, and again, I need to keep this in the lead. I'm happy to see the Dunsparce here where it can't really hurt me in the back, but either way, we do definitely need to try and get rid of this thing. Now, opponent's over farming, trying to get to 2 back-to-back moves, and I'm completely fine with that because as long as they're not swapping out on me, I can always live 1 drill run, maybe 2, depending on the IVs of the Pokemon involved. My Wiggytuff is a pretty Wiggytuff. I just noticed that. My Wiggytuff is a pretty good rank. It's a really, really high rank. It's not a rank 1 by any means, but it's definitely pretty high up there. I don't know the exact rank it is, but we see a Talonflame in the back, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this Swift for some chip damage and then come in with Drifblim immediately to go for the Astonish damage and force them to either swap out into an Azumarill that they have in the back, or they want to stay in and throw that energy. Now, I'm going to go for Shadow Ball here and nothing else. At this point, the opponent is down in a range where a Swift could knock out. They're also down in a range where Corsola can get in with a Nightshade if it needs to, but Corsola on Power Gem is what really helps this team power through things like Talonflame. Now, I'm going to go ahead and CMP tie this opponent here as Azumarill. I'm going to try to see if I can't get this final shield, and they do shield. I'm happy that we got a cap tie on that. I'm trying to count properly, okay? So they Ice Beam, we go down, and I'm going to come in with Corsola, and I'm going to just basically make sure that I always have the move. But the opponent goes for the 1 Incinerate. I have a feeling they're about to throw that energy. I'm going to go ahead and go for the catch here. The opponent goes for the Brave Bird, which hits the Wiggytuff, and they concede knowing that they're going to lose afterwards because we'll just farm down the Talonflame. Good game. Getting into our next game here, we have Wiggytuff on Shadow Feraligatr in lead. This is an incredibly good lead for us here because we can always live one Hydro Cannon and charm down this thing. And I could throw a Swift if I want to try and get a shield. Which is exactly what I'm going to do. Since they threw on 7 Shadow Claws, I'm going to go for 1 Charm and then the Swift and force my opponent to make a decision. Do they want to go ahead and shield this, or do they want to let the Gator go? And they do. And so they have a Clodsire in the back. We have a pretty decent matchup against this thing in the back with 2 Ghosts, but the opponent now has a Charge Bug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and shield. I recognize that Corsola can deal with the Clodsire, but if I can, I would really like to be able to come out of this matchup with some energy to go for an Icy Wind against the Clodsire if possible. I'm going to try to prioritize as good timing as I can. Typically, you want to go for 1 or 5 Astonishes, but because this is a Charge Bug, there's a very small chance that I'm actually ever going to get there. At this point, I think I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to let this go. I need a shield to be able to deal with the Clodsire because I can only tank, I think, just over 2 Earthquakes with this thing. And I need to get to 3 Nightshades, essentially. The Astonish damage is going to be helpful. I have Wiggytuff in the back if I can for a catch, or if I need to use it for, you know, some fast move damage at some point. But it's not really going to get to a move, and I need to keep it away from this Clodsire if I can. So, opponent does go ahead and shield that move. I do, at this point, need to watch out for a potential catch. So, I'm going to try my best to make sure that I don't get caught on. That's really what I'm looking to do here. I'm going to go for this Nightshade now so that I can try and get it out of the way so that my opponent can't catch it. Because I know the Switch Clock won't be back up for them, or if they have it, they haven't go ahead. This is where I would have expected them to make that catch, and I did not throw the energy right away. I was waiting that one turn to see, and then they swapped out, and we were able to take the game. Well played. The Azumarill lead, once again, we're going to stay in and tank the move. Something that I don't think we've seen yet, but is probably going to come up commonly, so if you're still in this video getting those hot tips, thank you for hanging around for as long as you have. You see a Dewgong in the back, by the way. What I like to do there is I like to go for Wiggytuff, stay in, take the Icy Wind, and then if it's a safe swap Dewgong, we will go into the Corsola and just go straight Power Gem, and Corsola can just tank all of the energy. But when it comes to Azumarill, what I'm going to do is I'm going to safe swap into my Drifloon at some point, and the opponent has their own Drifloon in the back, and I actually make a really dumb call here. I wait till the last move to go for the Icy Wind, when what I really should have done was I should have gone for it right away, because I might have been able to change the incoming damage to be able to live just one more move. But it is what it is. Hindsight's 20/20. I would probably have thrown that Icy Wind immediately in hindsight, but we're going to be able to at least get rid of the Drifloon with the Wiggytuff, and I'm staying in just long enough to get to the Swift because I can't swap out. My timer's not up yet. So we're going to get the Swift in. Corsola is going to come in, attempt to get the farm down. Opponent swaps out, but they have a Superior in the back. And this up energy is not too bad. We should hopefully be able to do something here. Again, just need to make sure the opponent doesn't try to catch at some point. We both have a shield. May as well use it here. I'm going to go ahead and no-shield this first move because I don't need to shield the first Frenzy Plant. But the opponent tries to bait with an Aerial Ace because they feel... Right, this is the mind game. Normally, like in the last game against the Clodsire when I shielded that Earthquake, the first move, normally you would have expected the first move to be the heavier hitting one because the opponent knows you're probably not going to shield it, but the opponent went and subverted the expectations by just going for what is essentially going to be the bait on what is most likely going to be the shielded move. So we're able to take that game very, very closely, but good game to the opponent and very nice play by them. We're picking up a 3-2 here. And that gets us up a little bit more elo when we get into the next game. We have a dreadful lead in an Ariados here. Drifloon is technically the better response here, but I don't want to ever safe switch into my Corsola if I can help it. Opponent has a Feraligatr in the back. I'm expecting them to have probably some other water type because that's very common with Ariados, for them to have some kind of like response to things like fire types, rock types, right? So opponent goes for the Hydro Cannon. In this case, I actually decide to let it go. I got a shield advantage. I don't want to give up both of my shields just to go for switch advantage here. Even though it probably wouldn't have been a bad idea, I'm just going to go ahead and give Corsola the 2 shield advantage because I feel like there might be like a Azumarill or something in the back. So opponent staying in here to get a ton of energy, and that kind of makes me worried here because they could easily destroy me with the energy if they wanted to. The first move, I'm not going to shield it because it's probably the Trailblaze, and if it is, they're going to probably go for another one. So I'll shield up the second move because I do want to keep Corsola healthy for whatever's in the back, and we have that shield advantage. And of course, they lunge me, and there's the Azumarill that we were expecting. So now I'm going to try to keep myself topped up on energy. Only throw when I have 2 moves, or I can try to swap out into the Wiggytuff, reset this debuff, and come back in with all that energy. Now, unfortunately, my opponent here is going to be able to get a move off, but I know we can live it. It's going to be a very close game, but Ariados really doesn't have any fast move pressure into me here, and I can come in with my Wiggytuff, go for the Swift before they get to another move, and this will apply some much-needed damage, and regardless, I just need to make sure that my Corsola gets to 2 moves once this thing is off the table here. So we're going to go ahead, and I am actually going to let my Wiggytuff go. Ice Beam is going to get the KO. We're going to come back in with Corsola, and I'm going to try to farm down. Now, unfortunately, I have to shield these, but the opponent, however, is going to have to deal with 2 moves on my Corsola, and they threw all their energy pretty much before swapping out. They may have like 1 or 2 residual, but they pretty much were out of energy, and now I can go for this Nightshade before the opponent can get to a charge move. Now, can we Astonish down before the Bubble Down? Yes, we can. The IVs were just good enough. Corsola coming in clutch. That's a good game. Well played. Getting into this next game here, we are going to have Wiggytuff against Dragonite. Dream lead. Just need to make sure we keep switch advantage here, and we have good damage into this entire team. So I can go for the Swift here unless the opponent decides they want to go for an Ice Beam, and at this point I can come in with Corsola to tank the energy that they've got on their Azumarill and just completely outbulk them and have a move ready to go for the Dragonite when it comes back in. Something that I will have to keep in mind is that the switch clock will probably come up at some point, and I am going to have to just make sure that I've got a move ready for the time that that happens. Now, we do have a CMP tie here, so it is 2 moves that are going to eat down the switch clock. I'm going to go for a Great just so I can try to get a farm down on this Azumarill. The opponent going to go for this energy. This is an Ice Beam, not doing a ton of damage, but they swap straight back into the Dragonite, taking advantage of the switch timer being desynced. Very nice play here by the opponent, trying to make something out of this Dragonite before it gets locked back onto the Wiggytuff. But I actually make a play here to not swap in my Wiggytuff because the opponent would basically get charmed down and I would be stuck in with Wiggytuff for a while. I feel like Wiggytuff is probably only going to see a lot of play here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save the shield here for my Drifblim and immediately switch it in. The Azumarill is just about out of everything, and the opponent has a Ferrothorn in the back, and that would have been a disaster for Wiggytuff to be stuck against this. With a shield advantage, this is basically just a win. I just need to make sure that they can't catch anything and they don't hit me with a Thunder, which they look to go straight for the Thunder. And at this point, I basically just want to get to 2 Shadow Balls, but I get really cheeky here for some reason and throw an Icy Wind because I feel like it would probably be enough to knock out from this range. Hopefully it is. Opponent no shields it because they know that it's over, and that's a good game. Well played. Love this Ferrothorn Spice. Very cool pick. Next game up, Wiggytuff and a Dewgong. So we get to see how we play out the Dewgong leads here, which is a good thing, because this is, you know, the second time I think we've seen Dewgongs. Unfortunately, these games didn't have so many Dewgong safe switches, but again, like I said earlier, we're going to go ahead, stay in, tank the energy, or the first debuff with the Wiggytuff. I actually, like, I'll Charm, I'll let them throw the Icy Wind, and then I'll just go straight into Corsola at that point. I usually don't throw the Swift if they come in with it as a safe switch. I just Charm until they throw the Icy Wind, and then I go ahead and I let Corsola come in after that and just go straight for those power gems. Now, in comes Corsola once again, but the opponent is going to be able to get a move off for the road here. Unfortunately, not going to be able to get the farm down this time, but that's okay. I'm hoping that in the back, maybe they're not going to be super strong. Into this, and they have Wiggytuff, and I'm just like, you know what? Great game. I'm done. Gone. Bye. Absolutely not playing that out. And then in the next game, we get our Nemesis, the Alolan Sandslash. I lose pretty much every time I see this. I'm just going to say. Like, this is one of those core breakers to this team that is just nothing I'm doing about this. But I'm going to stay in with Wiggytuff. I'm going to go for the Swifts as I can get to them if the opponent is going to go. I just need to get this thing as low as I can. What I'm going to do here is similar to how I play the Dewgong, except I actually have to use shields because I'm not able to do any damage with my charge moves or my fast moves. I'm whittling it down slowly. Thankfully, the opponent does give a shield back here, so it makes me feel a little bit better about my decision to be a very sad person. But I'm going to go ahead and just let this go and let Corsola come in and try and farm this down. Because they're not on Shadow Claw, we can definitely live these Powder Snows and Ice Punches / Drill Runs. It's also not a Shadow, so I'm not super worried about the damage that's coming in here. Corsola is going to live that, and the opponent's not able to get to another move, and in comes an Azumarill here. So we see that they don't seem to have a very strong answer to the Ghost typing in the back, which is fine, because I don't need to deal with that noise. But what's most likely in the back is Double Water, so I'm very, very scared of a Feraligatr coming in and making me sad, which is most likely going to happen, because that's usually why. That's where my luck goes with that. But we're going to see how this game unfolds here. Hydro Pump is going to knock out the Corsola. Opponent comes in with the Gator, and it's a bad time. I'm going to go ahead and top left for this trainer, because there's no way I win this good game. Like, that is just team comp to a degree that I can't deal with. So we're going to go ahead and get into the next game. We see Annihilate, and this is honestly one of the best leads, because this whole team just destroys the Annihilate. Opponent has a Dunsparce, they come in with it, and I'm very happy to see this now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stay in this matchup, and I'm going to go ahead and just continue to whittle this thing down with my Wiggytuff. We're going to go for the Icy Wind. Because it was a safe switch, I get to my Icy Wind before they get to their second move, so I can shield one, go for the Icy Wind, and simply charm down, and I will get to see their third Pokemon before they, because they're not coming back in with the Annihilate at this point at all. And because of the fact that we have Double Ghost, we are looking pretty good here. I can kind of decide how I want to play this game out. And there's the Alolan Sandslash, my nightmare, dude. But the nice thing is that our Corsola is still alive and healthy, so it's at this point simply, I'm going to put my Corsola on the Alolan Sandslash, and I'm going to put my Drifblim on the opponent's Annihilate here, and that's pretty much a wrap for this game. Like, we're going to be able to take this one here, because there's just nothing that the opponent can do at this point against the bulk of Corsola and the fast move pressure of Astonish here. We're going to go straight into the Drifblim. I double resist these counters. Opponent gets the Rage Fist in 6 counters, so I know that they're going to go down to the next move. I'm just going to go ahead and let them go for the Rage Fist. The first one will never knock out, and they concede because they know it's over. Annihilate was not happy to see this team, but I was happy to see Annihilate, and that's going to do 3 positive sets in a row on Go Battle Day. Again, I had a 5-0 recorded of the team that I played in the morning, but I was like, I'm going to get 3 consecutive sets and not make it look weird by like day set, night sight. So this team did super, super well. I can't really recommend it enough. If you guys have the Galarian Corsola built, and I would, again, recommend going for trade IVs if you can. Hopefully this team helps y'all. It's a really good team for Go Battle Week too, because of how much fast move pressure you have. The battles can go pretty quick. So that's going to do it for me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Good luck in your climb this week. Bye-bye.